Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am just going to do a race report today from the Big Half, which I ran yesterday. I ran a PB of 65:57, which I'm really happy about. It's been 2 or 3 years since I ran a half marathon PB, so this one was really special, and it was something that I needed to happen. To be honest, my training's been going well, but I haven't had the sort of performances that I am capable of. So this one was due, and it's due in a perfect time, which is now 8 weeks out until London Marathon. This is a little race report in regards to kind of step by step going through the miles and just talking to you about how I felt and what I expected, just on my training and stuff like that, just what I've been doing. And how I felt, towards the last couple of miles of the race, because in a half marathon, as most people know out there, you can feel pretty good through 10k, through 15k, but the last sort of 3 or 4 miles of a half marathon can be really tough. So yesterday was a really good conditions, apart from the wind. If it's recently we've had terrible wind every weekend, and most days of the week. So I can't remember a Sunday long run where I've done it with perfect good conditions recently. So, but yeah, it was nice and sunny yesterday. It wasn't rain or anything like that, but it was just very windy on the stretches through London where we had our wind in our face quite often. But yeah, I got there a bit of a trouble with trains in the morning. Trains got cancelled and stuff like that, so I managed to still get there about 45 minutes before the start. Luckily, I actually did my warm up before I even got on the train. So yeah, I had the warm up done, did some drills and stuff when I got there, changed my shoes, make sure I had all my racing kit on, and got to the start line. So I managed to get championship entry. So if you run a fairly good half marathon, it's under 1:15, you can get championship entry. So I managed to get right up to the front for the start of the race, and everyone went off really quick. I mean, the front sort of 15-20 people went off 4:30, 4:40 pace per mile. That was for the first couple of miles. So I knew that was too quick for me, because my PB before yesterday was 1:06 exactly, so just 66 minutes, which I worked out was 5:02 per mile. So I knew going off 4:30, 4:40 wouldn't have been any good for me, because I'm not quite in that sort of fitness yet. But you've got to be realistic, and you've got to kind of think of what you're capable of. So I thought around 5-minute miles would be okay to sort of hang on to. But the first mile was slightly downhill, went through the first mile in 4:47, which I was thinking I might pay for towards the latter parts of the race, but luckily I didn't. I kind of just settled into trying to run sort of bang on 5 minutes per mile, which was difficult because after sort of mile 2 and 3, you end up coming into a headwind, and I had to put a bit more effort in to even maintain that sort of 5 minute per mile pace. I went through 5k in 15:22, I believe, which is a pretty solid 5k time, considering that that's the quickest 5k, or equaled the quickest sort of 5k I've ran in the last 8 weeks. So but the kind of thing was yesterday, it just felt good. You had them days where everything clicks. You had them days where the pace you want to run doesn't feel too hard. You just feel like you're on that kind of riding that sort of red line where you're on the correct side of it, and it's not you're not stepping over the mark. So I went through 5k in 15:22, I think, yeah. So, and 10k in around 30:55 maybe, which is a solid 10k time, obviously. So, which I was happy with. But to be honest, even up until 10k, it felt really good. I didn't really feel stressed. And some of the best races are when they don't feel hard. When you're struggling, you're trying to battle, and you're going eyeballs out, I'd say, from the word go, and you're hanging on, all this sort of stuff, and you're working really hard. They're the races where you don't generally perform that well. It's when you're running hard and it doesn't feel like you're putting that much effort in, and the times are still, you're still putting the times out. So that was one of them days yesterday where I was very much in control, and I was probably playing it a little bit safe in terms of how hard I was running, because of how good I felt. I didn't want to run 4:50 pace the whole way from the gun and get to 8 to 10 miles and blow up and then run 1:10, 1:12 for half marathon. I wanted to just run around the same sort of pace that I think I could have ran, which is around 5 minutes per mile. So I did that, and yes, I went through 10k in about 30:55 and 10 miles in exactly 50 minutes. So I knew that 5 minute pace was on. I realised that the 5:02 pace per mile that I ran to run 1:06 exactly, or 1:06:01 or whatever I ran in a couple of years ago, would just put me outside 50 minutes. But knowing the fact of me going through 10 miles in 50 minutes, I thought that was actually a PB of 10 miles. So I thought to myself, right, I'm on for a good one here. I've just got to hold on and just dig deep the last couple of miles. So I was in a group of people, maybe 4 or 5 people, but who didn't really want to take the lead. I mean, the problem is that I didn't want to tuck in behind them because I didn't want the pace to drop. If we start running 5 seconds miles slower, my PB's gone out the window. My time's gone out the window. So I had to keep the pace going. I had to make sure I was hitting 5 minute miles on every single split or very close to it. So I had to lead the pack, so many times into the wind. I wasn't doing any of the work, but it was nice at the end actually, because when I crossed the line, 3 or 4 of them come up to me and just said thanks so much for doing all the leading, because they couldn't have done it, they reckoned. But I had to get out there, and I had to put myself out there and run hard and just make sure I hit the splits basically, because that's all I was really thinking about. In races like that where you're running against Kenenisa Bekele, who's a world record over 5 and 10k, you're not gonna. It's very hard to beat someone like that when they're running 60 minutes for a half. So I had to run my own race, and I had to run my own pace and my own times I wanted to run. So so again, I got to I had to do a lot of the leading throughout the race and stuff like that, and I got past the 10 miles in 50 minutes, and I knew that I had to run 15 more minutes to get the 1:05 around the 1:05 time. So hit the 400 meters to go, and I had about, I think, 75 seconds to do that in, which again is still 5 minute pace. And I just dug deep and started running for sort of 4:30, 4:40 pace. I always find that really, I've always, with the way I train, I've always got something in the tank left, just because I train in such a way that I'm not killing myself in training. I run very controlled, and I run the right efforts in training. So I've always got something in reserve. You get people where they just bury themselves 2 or 3 times a week, and they haven't got anything in reserve because they're racing and they're training. So as I say, 400 minutes to go, felt really good. 200 minutes to go, just started sprinting like mad, because I saw the clock started getting towards 1:06, and I thought I had to get underneath this, because running 1:06:01 doesn't sound anywhere near as good as 1:05 something. So come across the line, really hands on my knees, with the effort in the end. That extended pace for that long is hard to do. I averaged 5 minutes exactly for the time in the end. So yeah, very, very happy. I mean, couldn't have hoped for any more really. I mean, apart from maybe a better conditioned day. All I've got to do now is just get strong enough to eventually be able to hold that pace and do it again for a marathon. So again, it's not really about speed. Speed obviously comes into it, but you need the like aerobic strength to be able to hang on and make 5 minute miles feel like they're not that hard, to be able to run 26 miles at that, or 26.2 miles at that. So I've just got to get stronger so that I can maintain that kind of pace. It's very interesting in my training recently. In the last 8 weeks, you go back 8 weeks till Christmas. I ran 16 minutes for 5k, absolutely flat out. I was just dead by the end, and I was running 16 minutes. But now I've ran 15:20 or 15:30ish 4 times over. So you might kind of think, how's he managed to get that fit in 8 weeks? And that's purely from just pure consistency. 8 weeks of 90 to 100 miles a week. Sessions where they're controlled, but they're hard enough that I get a sort of stimulus and I get that improvement. And easy running. I've been a big believer in this. Not forcing my easy run pace. I run sort of between 7 and 7:30 pace on a daily basis, and all my sessions are controlled by heart rate. So if anyone's interested, obviously I do a lot of coaching. So if anyone's interested in learning about heart rate, or want to get a sort of a training plan off me, where you're sort of I'm giving you a training plan where it's all specialised, worked out by your exact heart rates to run at, you can start to see real big changes in your training. And sometimes you have to kind of step back and slow down most of your training to then move forward, because I personally think I don't run harder. I actually run less hard than anyone else, or majority of people else that I train with, because or train, around my ability, because too many people go too hard in training all the time, and they're just thrashing themselves, and they're not building; they're just breaking down too many times. So, so as I train in such a way, so I train at certain heart rates, certain effort levels, so that I'm gaining the aerobic strength that I need, and I'm constantly trying to improve my aerobic strength and my aerobic pace. Which is, and again, at the end of the day, that's the goal. You run a half marathon, a marathon fully aerobic, and a marathon is 97% aerobic, I think. So why should any of your training for a marathon be anaerobic in any sense? It shouldn't really be any anaerobic training at all. Maybe not even once a week should be anaerobic, because the event's so long and the event's 97% aerobic. So a lot of my training is controlled by that. And as I say, I've got very unique ways of working out how to work out heart rate zones for people, and heart rate training applies to everybody. It can apply for all abilities. So just because I train by it doesn't mean you can't train by it. It just means you have your own heart rate levels to train at. So as I say, so training's been going well. Race went very well. A little bit sore today, obviously. I'm just going to be recovering now for a couple of days before I get back to a session on Wednesday. Just thought I'd give you an update on the race, and I've actually got a half marathon in a couple of weeks' time, Brentwood Half, which I'm just going to do as maybe a session, or maybe just do as a marathon pace. But I've ticked the box really with a half marathon for this sort of spring, and 8 weeks to London Marathon. So I've just got to keep it going, stay injury free, not get ill, and look after myself really. So I'll catch up with you again soon, and as I say, any questions, if you want to get in contact with me, just drop me a message or an email or something like that, and I'll be happy to coach, or if you want any advice on training or whatever, just send me a message. I'll catch up with you all soon. Bye for now.